Welcome into another live stream, man. A little bit late live stream tonight, but that's fine. We're still going to get it in. This probably won't be a super long live stream, which is nice. So we'll be in and out of here. But we got some things to talk about, man. Unfortunately, it's some bad news that I saw when I wasn't home, and it just made me sad. So I was like, we can wait till tomorrow. I'm going to do it tonight because I don't want to wait to talk about this. Let's just get this out of the way. Let's also get the beats going a little bit, okay? We need something to bring some. Hopefully, this isn't too loud. But you're seeing it in the title, man. Terrion Arnold, they're saying out for the season. That's the most recent reports I've seen. Early, it was just that he's shoulder surgery, going to miss 4 weeks, got placed on IR, and then they kind of put it out there that, okay, he's going to miss the rest of the season. So that's my assumption based on the recent tweet that there's maybe not a path for him getting back so far this year. So Tom Pelissero most recently posted this. Lions cornerback Terrion Arnold is now scheduled to undergo shoulder surgery this week. Will miss the rest of the season per sources. Sad news there. Now, you didn't know this. See, this is why we're here. And I didn't want to do this to you. I really didn't, man. Like I was like, well, wait till tomorrow. Nah, because the thing I got to sleep on it, wake back up, and then talk about it tomorrow. I don't want to do that. Let's get it out of the way, man. And this is stinky news, okay? Here's why. The plan for today's live stream, we're still going to do it. But it was like a list of things. It was like a list of things that I thought needed to, well, I don't want to say needed to, but things that I would consider changing over this, kind of final stretch run for the Lions here to the playoffs. And one of them involved Terrion. Actually, one of the top ones involved Terrion Arnold being on the field a lot more. And then we get this news. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I just have to scratch it off. It doesn't really work anymore here. So we have that, but the list still makes sense. We also did get the first practice report. The good thing is this week the Lions are actually practicing, or they should be this week. It was a good point that John Morton brought up that, we didn't really get to practice last week. So, if you want to find optimism in all the nastiness that was on display last Thursday on Thanksgiving, maybe the fact that they get to practice this week means some of the details do get cleaned up. Because John Morton was very clear speaking today that he believes it's the same issue that we talked about yesterday. Or was that today? I think it was yesterday. Sorry, my throat's messed up right now. It was, hey, man, the details. It's execution. It's not a scheme issue. It's execution. And I agree with him for the most part. Now, some of the scheme stuff on the toss stuff I don't like. But for the most part, I agree with him, right? That's kind of where I'm at with it, too. I thought we did a good job bringing ourselves back into that game with the passing ability because we set in a lot of good concepts for us. We gave ourselves a chance. We executed some of those, but it was just too many of the plays that in the situations we didn't execute that limited us so much. So I agree with what he was saying. And hopefully this week, having that full week of practice means that he also is on to something when he says, well, hey, man, this week we get to see it full speed. We get to go after it a little bit. Man, maybe that's what we need. But I'll tell you what, everybody was on the same page. Kelvin Shepard said it. This is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. There's a sense of urgency. Everything's still in front of us, but now we have a sense of urgency. Right? We got to get this thing going. Let's take a look at the injury report, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Terrion Arnold injury and what I would consider doing now that we know that this is the case, which I see the Ennis Rakestar one. See, don't do that. Don't do that. Because I think the same thing. As soon as I see it, I'm like, wouldn't it be great to have Rakestar right now? Now, we don't have him either. All right, positive, though. Side note, Khalil Dorsey is back. He is available. The Lions could always go that route. For just depth purposes, the Lions, they have depth. They have depth, but we got to figure out what we're doing with those starters. So we're going to talk about that. But I want to start. Man, I don't know what's going on my throat. I'm sorry. I want to start with this injury report first. And actually, it's not that large. So it's actually a positive. It's not that massive for the Lions here. I mean, there's a couple of positive updates. I mean, we'll start there first. And some of these are more positive than what they even told us, to be honest with you. Here we go. Let's take a look. So first off, Terrion Arnold, he's out. He's going to be out for a while. So that one is what it is. No update on Khalif Raymond. Well, not a positive update. Still no participation. Good thing is we kind of made it work last week without him. Shout out to Tom Kennedy. I expect to see him again. Amon-Ra St. Brown, no participation. That was the only report that was put out today. It's just like he had no participation. I don't think he's going to play Thursday. Right, with where we're at, I would expect he's not going to play. Hopefully I'm wrong, but he's got a low ankle sprain is what they're saying. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be super long, but not this week. It's kind of what we're thinking, Brock Wright, no participation, still here as well. Lions are down to the basement of kind of trying to find guys that can play tight end for them. I mean, I think they made it work last week. Nothing's really going to change there, though, from what we're seeing. I actually want to pull up the Lions X account real quick so you can see what we're looking at here. Let me go through it. because they put a lot of the long term stuff on here. They don't put the other stuff. Yeah, okay, so they got some injury stuff or moves like Andrew Armstrong signing the practice squad, Nite Mutai being released. Let me find the long term stuff. Did they post it? Jabari Small, Trey Flowers? No, that's not it. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Ah, I don't see it. Okay, wait, hold it. Maybe it's not on. Maybe it's not on. Maybe I didn't see it. Where did I see it? Okay, I don't. Okay. Anyways, we'll forget that. We'll just keep it moving. I don't know. I'll find it. Regardless. All right, continue. Brian Branch, limited. New injury update there. I mean, that's new for him, so hopefully he's okay. Taylor Decker, this is actually a positive. Graham Glasgow, limited participation. I would say this is a positive. This is a positive as well for me. Is Graham Glasgow, limited participation. He's back practicing. I hope he's back this week. I think we could definitely use him, and it could open up the door for us to really have a conversation about who can play left guard for us. I mean, it's going to open that door for us. And Kirby Joseph. Now, there's been a lot of weird stuff going on with Kirby. Some of it I've kind of missed, to be honest with you, with Kirby Joseph, because a lot of it's been about, I guess, him deleting social media. It's been some weirdness. And then when Dan Campbell really didn't comment on anything, and then all of a sudden Kelvin Shepard kind of came out and was like, "Hey, man, everything's good. He's fired up to get back," and he's listed with limited participation. So we're thinking, hey, maybe this guy is going to be okay. The concerning element that Dan Campbell gave us was when he said this, and I actually pulled the quote up right here. He kind of made it sound as if like, okay, bone bruise, yes, don't know if it'll ever be right, which is understandable. He's like, it's kind of like if it was a meniscus or something like that, and I a cartilage, things like that, which makes sense. I mean, I know guys are dealing with stuff like that. It makes sense. I mean, I'll tell you what, my knee don't feel the same. So there is that. He said, I don't think this is necessarily going away, but I think you do the best you do to manage it. It's a lot of these guys, like they've got some injuries or dealing with it, cartilage or meniscus or anything like that. You do your best to manage it. There will always be a little wear and tear. It's just how bad is it? But I do know that the more you strengthen and stabilize, that helps you a ton, keeps the swelling down, helps with the pain. So that's where we're at. So there was videos of him practicing. That was the update from Dan Campbell. Didn't really give us a clear picture whether or not he'd be playing this week, but he did say things were getting better. And there's actually a video clip of him practicing too, which is, I guess I'll show it because I have. Oh, this is a Giants background. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I mean, shout out to Colton Pouncey with these little videos of Kirby Joseph running around. Got that big brace on that left leg, but he's moving. He's practicing. I mean, this is good. This is good. So it feels positive. It feels very positive for Kirby Joseph. And then, as terms of long term, that's where the questions are coming in. I don't think there's actually that many questions about short term here. Everything feels like it's a long term question about what this is going to mean for Kirby Joseph going forward with the issues that I guess that he's dealing with in his knee here. And that's a real concern. Obviously, we just paid him, so that stinks. Here's the flip side. I don't think this is abnormal. It stinks, but it's not abnormal. I think what Dan said is very real. Like I said, I'm only taking it from my perspective, right? I tore my ACL and I had it repaired. It's been over a year. It doesn't feel the same. Now, that doesn't mean I can't use it. Obviously it's weaker, but it's not the same. You feel it, but you have to take steps to deal with that. And I think you have to be smart about it then. But and also it's not like Kirby's the only guy in the league dealing with this. You don't want it to get super serious, but the idea that you would have to strengthen it, and also I would say strengthen around it specifically, you're going to have to do more exercises. I know Matthew Stafford talked about this offseason where he's having exercises that are specifically for, you're not thinking like the broader exercises. You're thinking very specific for what you're dealing with. And those will be the things that likely Kirby Joseph is going to have to deal with. He's going to have to deal with very specific exercises, very specific workouts to target very specific areas in his body and strengthen the very specific areas around his knee. So it'll probably be uncomfortable. It'll be one of those things where he'll have to rest it for sure. But what Dan Campbell saying about swelling is absolutely correct. You strengthen around it to limit swelling, that way you're putting less pressure on that area. If anything, it kind of opens your mind to how things impact each other. So I don't think it's, wow, what is going on here? Like, I think this is all kind of normal, right? This is unfortunately how it is, but it's normal. There's going to be questions long term. There's going to be things that we just don't know as of now, because I don't know that there's a lot with a bone bruise. I mean, if that's what it is, I don't know how much there is, with that, but it seems like he's trending towards playing. And Calvin said he's fired up to get back. It's just questions about the long term stuff. So we'll see how it all shakes out. I'm hoping for the best for him. These is not abnormal, but it's not great. It's not great. Just here we are. Speaking of that, Sione Vaki Limited and Shane Zilstra Limited. Someone just said what happened to TA. So TA shoulder surgery. He's been dealing with this shoulder issue, and now he's been listed out for the year. So that's just a tough turn of events. I mean, I just felt like it came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. We've been able to consistently get Terrion right. So hopefully, like Ennis, the surgery means that long term we're in a good spot. I don't know, but it's unfortunate. Okay, so with that, positive with Kirby. Brock Wright, we'll see. Graham Glasgow positive as well, which is good. Josh Pascal, someone said it. He's out for the season. So the Lions didn't activate Pascal, which was weird. So that's why we are where we are there with the 21-day window for Josh Pascal. So that knocks him out for the season because he didn't actually get through the 21-day window. So it makes things a little bit strange for us. All right, so that's where we're at with injury stuff. That said, let's move on to the topic of today's video, which is changes that I would consider making for the Lions for this playoff push. And we also got some quotes here from our A and our DC. We got some good stuff, man. Specifically, I think Kelvin Shepherd. And we'll get to it. We'll sprinkle it in as we walk through this. Whiteside bring the Legion of Whom back together. I mean, he might. We'll talk about it because there's actually something that we need to talk about specifically with that does come up when we kind of go through this. So let me go to the thing I got put together here. Win over Dallas 35-33. Shoot, I'll take it however we can get it. You know what I mean? As ugly as it wants to be, if we want to cheat a little bit, do what we got to do. We got to find a way. And that's how John Warren ended his presser. He was like, let's get a W. We got to get a W somehow. We got to find a way. Here's my list, but a couple of things have changed here since these injury updates. So let's walk through these because I think these are good. Okay. Let's start off at the top. This is really just a follow-up from what we talked about this week, which is keep challenging pass offenses. Did I spell offenses right? I think so. This is something that I think Lions need to continue to do, and I think last week was so many positives from challenging the Packers. Now, not every offense is the same. It's going to be unique based on who you play, but I do think that identity of who the Lions truly are at their core of aggressive man coverage flexibility was on full display. Brian Branch, Alex Anzalone, even Jack Campbell's kind of dabbled in that too. Like that being who they are at their core, it doesn't mean every game you're going to do it as many as others, but in general, I think the Lions need to lean into that. I think that's still who they are as a team, even with Terrion Arnold not on the field, which is where the Terrion thing comes up next. I still think that's who they are, and I think that challenging pass offense for a lot of opponents, making teams make tight window throws versus giving them layups underneath can change things. And I think that was a huge advantage that we had built up with Aaron Glenn, and I still think it was an advantage against Green Bay. Obviously, they got us a couple of times, but it was an advantage. So I still think that's something the Lions definitely need to lean into, continue challenging teams. And that takes me right to the next point, though, which is allow Terrion and Reed to stay wide. I would have liked the Lions, if Terrion was healthy, to just stay with what they were doing and kind of throw out some of the rotation. I mean, you had Rocky Sin play 6 snaps in coverage. What's the point, right? That's kind of what it felt like. Amik Robertson's playing wide and in the slot. Kind of feels weird. And it's just like an unnecessary rotation, like a lot of it was. Now, Kelvin Shepherd did not blame the 12 men on the field to that. Fair enough, right? Like, so he's like, that's elementary. If someone goes on, someone has to come off. But it was a cornerback thing. We did have an extra defensive back on the field there. Though, I will say, now with Terrion out, part of this still remains true for me. Stop rotating DJ Reed, okay? Just stop. Now you don't have Terrion. DJ Reed shouldn't come off the field. Dude should not come off the field. He needs to be out there every play at cornerback. The question is opposite. Well, now this kind of gets tricky because the Lions may continue to rotate at cornerback. Like that's might just be the answer they have to go with now. And I think in those 6 snaps, Rocky Sin played well in the 6 covered snaps. You know, he played with leverage really well. I'll play some clips in a second here. But he played with great leverage in man coverage. Specifically, that's what he was on the field. What they did was man coverage. He's always been a presence for us inside the yard line. He's been very good communicating inside the 10-yard line. He's broken some passes up in those spots. But I thought he was really good in this last game. You know, very limited sample size, but very good leverage-wise. And you're going to have the option of Khalil Dorsey. So, unfortunately, you're probably going to continue a rotation on that side. But at very least, let's stop taking Reed off the field. You know, because part of me thought about this and was like, well, maybe you keep Reed out wide, and then when the team goes 3 receivers, you go Reed into the slot. That way you can keep Amik out wide. But part of this was having Terrion healthy, and it was like, well, we could take Amik off the field. But I think now with where you're at without Terrion, keep Reed on the field. And the second part of that is continue to use Brian Branch like you did. What Brian Branch did in this last game took me back, man. This took me back to when we first got Brian Branch, right? When he was playing nickel for us. And he's done that. But it was the fact that when we would go, hey, man, single high, man up Brian Branch and put him on their best. Like, that was a throwback to Brian Branch, man. And really, all of this got started with Brian Branch. When Brian Branch first got here and the Lions were able to play so much man, and it changed kind of the math against Green Bay and their ability to make passes difficult to convert. Brian Branch was a huge part of that. And I think we have to continue, if you're going to lean into who you are in challenge teams, continue to allow Brian Branch to be a staple of that. Let him be an extension of your cornerback room. You're beat up at corner. Cool. He's going to be an extension. DJ Reed needs to see the field. If you're in base coverage, obviously he's going to be out there every time. You can't take him off. And sometimes just consider, hey, look, we want to play base defense. Branch, just go play slot for us. We'll play single high. Because right now, without Kirby, I think it's going to be difficult to be like, hey, man, we're just going to put Branch in the nickel until Kirby comes back. Then you could have that conversation. Like, Branch step down, we'll play Kirby deep, and we'll play him with Thomas Harper. You could start to have that conversation to putting Branch in the slot, and then you could have a rotation with Amik and Rocky Sin and leave DJ Reed on the field. I think that's on the table. It's worth considering for the Lions once Kirby's back and he's consistently healthy here down the stretch, hopefully. I would start to look at that world of possibility again. I would absolutely do it because the reality is you need to get your best on the field. Regardless of what it looks like, we have to get best on the field. And Brian Branch is obviously one of those guys. But he's also so good in man as he was this last game, and he was doing it vertically as well. It's worth kind of dabbling in that a little bit. But regardless, use him in man. However you want to do it, this guy has to play man for us, right? We have to lean into that element of his game. And I think especially when Kirby comes back. The next part, and this is, again, unfortunately, kind of cut short with the whole Josh Paschal thing, and it stinks. It stinks, man. Because realistically, these two things tie together. 2 steps down, I have Ali McNeil, and I have some clips for this too. But defensive end discipline must improve run. Kelvin Shepard pointed out all the big runs they had. He said one of them we had 10 players on the field, which was, I don't know which one that was actually on top of my head. We had 10 players on the field on one, which was an explosive for 13 yards. They had the 14-yard jet sweep, which was man coverage, and Terrion Arnold was late to get there. You had a 29-yard, which was their big run, which we watched it actually yesterday together. The split zone block where Davenport jumps in, Alex falls behind him, and no one covers the C gap, and he just bounces. Way too easy, poor details. Part of that's on Davenport. Part of it's on Duracell to me. And then the 13 yards where you have guys where they should be and you don't fit gaps correctly. But that was the play that we actually watched together, was that big popping run on the inside zone cutback from Josh Jacobs. Here's the reality. These two things tie together to me. You can still dabble Aleem at DN, and I don't hate it. I would lean back more to Aleem McNeil on the interior. If there's injuries and things, you start, and this will be a lot easier to make the case with, it'd be a lot easier to make this case with Josh Paschal available because you want to get your best on the field. So is your best on the field Tyleek's out there because you kick Aleem McNeil to DN? Potentially. So I think the rotation's never going to stop. I think that rotation will continue. But maybe Lacey gets back in the fold a bit. Use Davenport, right? Use him, right? You have to. I use him at this point. And for me, I would look to get Aleem McNeil more so a majority on the interior again. Because if you look at Aleem McNeil played 23 snaps as a defensive end in this last game. He played 18 as a defensive tackle. And that's fine. But dude, as a defensive tackle, I just think he's a bigger consistent threat as a pass rusher. His quickness shines. He's a great stunt piece. And he gets an edge. He doesn't do that as much at defensive end. He doesn't consistently get an edge at defensive end. But he did do pretty well there. He's a speed to power guy. He can create some knockback. But his juice pops on the interior. Now, defensive end, he still made some plays. He got a field a little bit. He's not incredibly long, which kind of hurts him on defensive end as well. And he got pushed around in both spots. But at very least, I think the interior, when you're leaning into saying, hey, use your athleticism, get upfield, get downhill, it pops a lot more on the interior. I think it's just more of a presence. And if you have, it's going to depend on the team, right? Like there's teams where maybe you're dealing with a quarterback that gets out a lot. Maybe you do like Aleem McNeil at DM because he's just going to collapse the pocket. He's not going to run around the edge. Maybe that just works for you. And again, he was fine there. But if you put him on the interior against teams that you're not as concerned about that, he's going to spill the quarterback more consistently. That position. Stunts, one-on-ones, get an edge. Reader's taking a lot of the double teams anyway. Anytime he gets a one-on-one, you feel good about it. The two consistent rushers, and Calvin Shepard said this after the game. He said Aleem McNeil was a consistent presence on Thanksgiving. He had 7 pressures in that game. you're going to get that most consistent presence as a rusher on the interior. So if you're trying to figure out where it's going to come from, it's got to come from there. And I think that's one very simple way to do it is start leaning a little bit heavier to the interior. If he can't play the run of the interior, you got an issue. Because to me, he got pushed around playing defensive end. Double teams. He's getting pushed around. He got pushed around from jump. Get him on the interior. Let him be more of a dominant presence. If he gets pushed around a little bit, he does. But the point is, his rushing impact is much more noticeable when he's on the inside. So that's the next thing I would consider. He's getting a majority of snaps at the end right now. I'd flip that. Still rotate, but I'd flip it. Open competition at left guard. I think we're all kind of on the same page with this one. And this is actually perfect, though. As soon as Graham Glasgow gets back, this becomes possible. You get Graham Glasgow back out there at center. To me, there's no question he goes back to center at this point. I'm not even messing with it. You're playing center. We're going to calm the waters a bit, okay? We got to get our details of communication dialed. Shout out to Tristan Colon. He did hold it down. He held it down to pass pro. Once that becomes the case, open comp at left guard. I'm not even completely against, and it hurts because you had some just poor execution last game. I'm not completely against the Lions going a rotation mid-game. You don't love it, but Green Bay's done it in the past. It's never usually an ideal circumstance to have to rotate guards. But unless you're going to say, hey, Miles Frazier's ready, we're going to give him the nod, see what it looks like. If it's trash, we'll pull him, which is exactly what I would do. I would just play Miles Frazier. If it looks bad, pull him. But if you're not going to do that, Tristan Colon and Keon, maybe rotate him a bit. See what Tristan Colon's got. And at least until if Mahogany comes back, I think you have to have an open-minded competition there. Right? That's not to say Keon was awful. He was fine. But I think there's got to be an open competition because at very least I want to see Miles Frazier. But you have what you have right now. Let's see an open competition, and that's what I would do. And I wouldn't mess at all with Graham Glasgow going back to center. That's where I'm at with that. Next up, feed the hot hand. I think we got to get back a little bit to who we were in the past. I understand getting Gibbs the ball the most. He's looked way better than Monty this season, but last game was an absolute it was so clear that it was a Dave Montgomery game to me. And I think Montgomery would have had more success. And I think with Montgomery, because they like to do some things differently with them, they would have went more lead runs, lead zones. I don't think they did it enough. But I think they didn't have Monty consistently out there. It doesn't mean go into next game and say, Monty, you get more carries than Gibbs. Don't do that. But I'm not against saying who's hot in this game. We're going to roll it. Because there's going to be games like this last one, if we play Green Bay again, where I think you have to consider. This is the second time this has happened this year. Earlier this season, I felt the same way. I walked out of the game. We did our post game or whatever. And I said, hey, man, someone had to get in our running back's ears. Get upfield. Stop dancing. We got to get positive against these guys. And that's not a shot at Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just that's Monty's game. He's very quick. Stick his foot in the ground, he gets upfield. That was Monty game. He should have more touches. But also the flip side of that, really lean into what Gibbs can be as a receiver. Because right now, he looks like one of your best receivers on the team. I know he's a running back, but he looks like one of our best. His route tree's not overly expansive. Run some curls, run some outs, right? Obviously, running back screens, those kind of things. But he's winning. He catches the ball. He gets upfield. He picks up like 7 every time you check it down to him. I mean, dude, he's playing as a pure slot right now. I'd really lean into this. You know, you start to see it last year towards the end of the year. I would really lean into Jahmyr Gibbs like a receiver. And I would also consider on top of that, because if that's where you're at, just put Monty back there to pass pro. Clearly the Lions are not going to put a tight end back there to block for some reason. They're not even going to mess with that. So fine, if you're not going to mess with that, put Gibbs in there to pass block. Let Gibbs go to work in the slot on pass downs. Because to me, we had the very first play where Gibbs is blocking like the wrong guy or there's some miscommunication. It's not great. So if that's going to be Monty, if it's not going to be Monty, then you got to figure out where you're going next. But if it is, let Monty do that. Really lean on to Gibbs as a receiver because right now he's winning. And he's one of our best receivers on our team without St. Brown, especially because of what he does after the catch. He brings run after catch because of his route tree to the level that St. Brown did. And that's what St. Brown was so good at. And then the last point, obviously, I put let Tesla replace JMO routes. This is kind of a weird one, but this was more so just kind of in response to the deep curl stuff. And this is not really a shot at JMO. It's more so just a idea of we got to continue to get Tesla going here. This is the time for Tesla to roll. This was kind of like a warm-up, it felt like last week. It's time to let Tesla, let's take off the training wheels. We need to roll, buddy. If Saint's not playing this week, it's time to roll. We got to do our thing. You got to become a legitimate part of this offense and be our Josh Reynolds. Be the guy that runs the deep curls. Be the guy that runs the deep comebacks on the outside. Go be our Josh Reynolds for us, right? You made a great grab. You made a couple great grabs in this game. Just go be that for us. And I think you have to lean into that. Now, this is not a 20 guy. This is a legit part of your offense right now. Khalil's not practicing. You got to make him your Josh Reynolds of the offense. And you got to lean into Jameson Williams. We're taking some of that off his plate, in my opinion, and we're letting you run away from people consistently. Like, I think that's what this has to turn into. And don't be afraid to say, hey, Tesla doesn't have to be hey, man, he got 3 catches today. Tesla could get 7. Remember, there was games like that with Reynolds where it was like, hey, man, this is a good matchup for him. He'd have like 8 targets and be our guy. Other games, he wouldn't have a catch. Let Tesla, I think, fall into that world, at least this week, where it's like, hey, man, maybe Tesla has 6 receptions, 7 receptions. Maybe he gets some real volume. And then maybe there's a game where it's like he doesn't touch the ball. That's okay. Let him become that guy for us. Really lean into him becoming that guy. And I also skipped one, which was cut the mistakes in half. This is pretty self-explanatory. This has to happen. This is the only way we get back on track is the mistakes cut back in half. And I'm hoping with some real practice that this starts to become the case. But we've talked about it all yesterday. We have to cut these mistakes in half. I think John Morton touched on it with the execution, but he didn't focus on it as much as I would have. Dude, we got to be sound with our blocking assignments. The 12 men on the field, the 10 men on the field. It's disgusting. It can't happen. But offensively, it's more so an execution issue for me right now. Scheme makes sense outside of the toss plays, but yet we're not blocking anybody at times. We're not climbing to the second level. Obviously, McDuffie made some plays. Taylor Decker didn't block incredibly well, I thought. But on top of that, like we duo runs, like at some point, someone's got to step up and go make a play. This should be just buried into their minds this week, and hopefully, whether that's simplifying the run scheme or whatever it is, that these guys get cleaner assignment-wise, because that's what they need to do. They got to be cleaner in their assignments. And as for the defensive side, I think if you just continue to challenge teams, you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be fine there. There's not a ton of blunders right now with what we do schematically. I mean, they got us a couple times on some like 4th and 1s, but not that. There wasn't a ton of blunders for us. It's like Kelvin Shepard said. I mean, 4th downs, they just made plays. We didn't. We were in phase. We didn't make the play. Branch gives off a route, gives up the touchdown. That shouldn't have happened. One should have been a 4th down, but we get called for offside. The other one was a fantastic contested grab. I'll live with that. But some of these, we just do have to make plays. So those are the things that I would make. I mean, obviously, cutting mistakes in half is not a change to make. I mean, it is. Hopefully it is, but it's not really like a thing you can just do. But I think everything else is reasonable. Stop taking Reed off the field. Lean more in the interior. I would lean into that. Let him be a monster there because, again, interior pressure is so hard to deal with. And typically teams that aren't great in the offensive line is because their interior has some weaknesses. Okay, expose those. And I would like to get Roy Lopez more involved, by the way. So if you are going to put a Aleem at the end, put Roy in there. Put Roy in there a bit. Maybe get him a little more involved in the rotation. Maybe get Roy more involved for DJ Reader, to be honest with you. You know? Step him in for DJ Reader a bit. And for the assignment stuff, it's part of what I think John Morton hit on, which was the big part, which was you have new guys in. Isaac Tesla not stepping in, and that would have been Khalil's role probably, but not stepping in, connecting with the safety. Just not close enough to the line to even do it. Didn't even give himself a chance. So things like that, yeah, fair enough. Okay, it's a new guy kind of in that role, but that still shouldn't happen. And hopefully at full speed when these plays that they're going over, they're prepping for the week, that cleans up this week. Because if it doesn't clean up this week, 1, we're going to lose a football game. And 2, it's just I got to put it on coaching at that point because we're just not doing the details. Like, that's just where it's going to have to go because it's been like this all season long. We are not disciplined as we should be. We are not there. We need to cut it in half. Cut it in half, we win games. We're not as disciplined as we need to be. So, and it has to happen this week. There's no more time. It has to happen this week. Now, we did hear Calvin Shepard address the Hutchinson thing. I thought that was pretty funny. Saying that he has one of the best edges in the game, that kind of thing. Fair enough. I won't really go into that. I mean, I agree with him, but I won't really go into that. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Skies our man better or you're better at zone. And that's completely agreed, by the way. We don't disguise that well, like at all for zone. We don't disguise well at all. I think it depends on who you're playing too. Like you have to be aware of who your team is that you're facing up against. Like the Giants exploited zone. We knew coming into that was going to be the case. The Packers always exploit our zone coverage, right? And I think maybe part of that is seeing us all the time. Certain teams it works. Certain teams it does work to lean heavier zone. It's just going to make sense. But some teams have a feel for it. And like you're pointing out, our scheme is typically not built on us disguising. It feels like it's more so on just like, hey, they can know what we're in, but we're going to execute and play really fast. And that's kind of makes sense, especially against teams you don't see consistently. Against a team like the Packers, you see them too often. That's not a good strategy. We do some disguise on third downs. I thought we had a good one early in that game. We went to Tampa 2. They threw a curls and they weren't open. He checked it down underneath. That was a good one. But we're not great at disguising. And if anything, one of the changes that I would have made, we're really looking back on that game, we should have did more cover 2. Like, to me, you can work through disguising zones. I think that's one thing what the Lions really don't do a lot of, seemingly, is it's not only that they showed, man, they might go to zone, because that's teams do that all the time on third down. But it's more so the element that they don't typically disguise from zone to zone. It's kind of like, oh, you're playing man, oh, we're playing zone. But they don't disguise one zone to another very often. That's something I think is worth kind of leaning into maybe a little bit more depending on who you're playing. And especially in that last game, we didn't really ever play cover 2. I think in hindsight, we should have played a little cover 2 more. We played Tampa 2 a little bit in this game, and that was successful typically when we ran it, outside of the one run that he had where they ran against it. But it was actually pretty successful. I kind of wish we would have did that more in second down, where maybe we could have showed cover 3, but just invert it. Do what Green Bay does. Invert out of a cover 3, go to a cover 2, right? Try to take away some of those quick hitters. If anything, I would add that back into their mix a bit. But again, it's going to depend on team. I think you still have to be who you are at the core. You have to be, if you're going to be a team that's just leaning on playing fast, less confusion. And because even Kelvin came out and said it today, like, I never said it was about, scheme or whatever, or wizardry at scheme or whatever he said. It's about the guys that we have. Well, if that's the case, let your guys go make plays. You can't give them free access. You're giving teams free access, right? So now it kind of takes it out of what the players can do when you're giving them that, because they're just bailing. We should have done a lot without Kirby, with him coming back there playing cover 1. We should have done a lot without Kirby. Without Kirby coming back there playing cover. Yeah, a lot of cover 2 stuff. Yeah, and now here's the thing. I didn't dislike a lot of the cover 1. I mean, we gave the one touchdown on it. Harper was there. I mean, he just didn't make the play. He was a little bit late. But we had the one up the seam, which was single high, was Harper in cover 3. That's fine. I mean, again, they were kind of trying to keep a little rotation, and it got us. But I do agree with you. Like, I would have mixed in a lot more cover 2 with that. I understand it because you want to get Brian Branch downhill. So when you're playing Branch consistently downhill and he becomes a part of, when he becomes a part of your coverage unit as a safety, and you're like, oh, let's match him on the slot and stuff like that. Well, one, if you are going to disguise and go to zone, you're probably in cover 3 because he's already down there. And then also, if you're playing man, obviously you have to have a single high safety. But you can still invert out of stuff. I know it's not maybe your biggest strength as a team, but you can always have a cornerback bail into the deep half and race your slot out into the flat. And playing an inverted cover 2 and just have your middle field safety roll over top to the opposite side. Now we're inverting it. Like, that's something Lions could still consider doing. So I would think about maybe adding that to the mix a little bit. Just a little bit. Keep Tom the GOAT Kennedy at kick returner. Completely agree. Yes. Don't. Hey, I should have put that on there, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I should have done it. So you're saying play 2-man. And we played it one. Well, I think we played it twice. The one time we gave the big corner route on Amik Robertson, he fell down. But just in general, and like I said, I don't have an issue with the cover 1 stuff, because typically you're either blitzing out of it, which I think is good because I think it plays into the hands of being aggressive and taking away airspace because it speeds up that he can't get through as many reads. So I don't have an issue with it typically. And honestly, when we were in cover 1, I thought Harper was fine. I actually thought he played it pretty well. If you look at that first drive, why it stalled out, it was usually cover 1 defense. He kind of stepped down on some routes. So I'm typically okay with that. It's more so when it gets to the zone stuff where I think we get a bit shaky. It's more of the zone stuff where we get a bit shaky. But maybe if you can go too deep and rotate near some of your cover 3, maybe that'll help you a little bit. Maybe. If this team plays elite with what they currently have, can we win the Super Bowl? If they play elite with what they have, absolutely. I truly believe that. Now, I'm going to sound like a homer on that one. But even more, instead of today, like, we're good because the players that we have. And I do agree with that. Like he said, Goff threw some great throws, played a really good. We had so many guys play really good. No one really played elite in that last game. And we overcame a lot. And, if we didn't have the talent, we probably would have got blown out in that game with how many poor runs that we had and how many dumb mistakes that we had. But we gave ourselves a chance. And we gave ourselves a chance because in a lot of ways, the guys that we have. I mean, and look, credit to the Packers. They made some really good plays when they were contested. You know what I mean? Like, he made some awesome plays when they were contested, some great grabs. Wicks made a great grab. I still don't understand what Brian Branch was doing on the touchdown pass. But they made some big plays. And you're going to have to bake those in. We're going to get that against Dallas. They're going to make some big plays. But I think odds are still going to favor us in a lot of spots in these games where it's like, to an extent, if you can just get out of your own way a little bit, you're going to give yourselves a chance. And Dallas is probably going to be one of our most difficult matchups left, if not our most difficult matchups left. Now, seeing how they've been playing recently, they might be our most difficult team left. Obviously, outside, I would probably stack it Rams 1, Cowboys 2, Chicago 3 because it's on the road, Pittsburgh, Minnesota. That's probably how I would stack the remaining games. So this is going to be a challenge for him, but it is still on front of him. I think the quarterback has a ceiling. It's Hutch's game to show out. Haven't been paying attention since to Dallas O-line. Haven't been paying attention to Dallas O-line. Is this Hutch's game to show out? Oh, you said that. Okay. Dallas got a pretty good O-line. The one thing I'm interested about Dallas's O-line is getting more. It's actually specifically for this, getting Aleem McNeil going more in the interior because they're young on the interior. Now, they got some good dudes when they got dogs on the interior. But I do get a little bit interested with some of the youth that they have. I mean, even the guys that aren't rookies, they're still a little bit younger on the offensive side of the ball on the interior, right? BB at center, Booker at guard. Booker's played well, but you have a little bit of that. So that intrigues me, right? Because I still think that as good as they are on the interior, Aleem can win that. That's why you paid him. But I don't think that it's wrong to think that Hutchinson could go to cook against these dudes. I don't think that's out of the equation against them because you could argue their interior is stronger than their outside or their tackles. You could argue their interior is actually stronger than their tackle position, and I don't think you'd be crazy to say that. They've invested a lot there, and most of their investments have hit on the interior. Ever since they put Smith back in the inside, they drafted Cooper Beebe out of K-State, and then also having Tyler Booker this year in the first round. Like, they've invested a lot to make that right. So they do have a good offensive line. I'm sure they're going to give a lot of attention to Hutch. And maybe that's where you'd want to have Aleem on the outside because they think they can get wins there. But I like to stress the interior. And I'd like to challenge Davenport to go win. I'd like to challenge Muhammad to go win one-on-one against that opposite tackle. That's what I would like to do. That's how I would look at it because I think that can be a formula going forward. When watching them on television, they look a few things wrong. Sometimes they look really bad. Yeah, sometimes they do look really bad. There's no denying that. There's no denying that. Like I said, the one thing I'm confident of, I don't think scheme feels like a big issue. John Morton felt like that was the case too, and I don't think it is a big issue for us offensively. There's things that I would change, but I don't think it was a big issue or it is a big issue. I think it really is execution based, which partly can make you positive, partly could make you concerned because it's like, well, execution is the name of the game. And it's true. But if you can, limit it by 4, you got a shot because you have the dudes to do it. You have the dudes to execute. You got the guys. Terrion is out for the season, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the latest reports. If anything changes, we'll be on it. But as of now, like that's what they're telling us. I don't know. Season 8's on its last legs. Who's season 8? Season 8's. Season 8's. We just got to go, man. We got to go. And it starts this weekend, or it starts Thursday. We got to get it against Dallas. Find a way. By any means. You get a win against Dallas, you're going to feel really good about where you're at. Okay. You're going to feel really good about where you're at, I think, if you beat Dallas. Because now you're looking at that stretch saying, look, man, we could probably afford to lose one more. You don't want to. But now you're going to L.A., and then what you have after that, like literally everything's in front of you. What is Shep doing putting Aleem on the edge? No matter the reason, it's just stupid. I don't think it's terrible because I do think from the mindset of get your best 4 on the field, it makes a ton of sense. Like from the perspective of, hey, what's our best 4? Because that's the idea, especially at this level, especially when you're dealing with injuries. You got to get your best 4. So the idea of saying Aleem McNeil and Tyleek or Aleem McNeil and Roy Lopez is better than Tyler Lacey and Aleem McNeil on the interior. Like, it makes us better as a whole, as a unit. I think that's a very fair way to look at it. And I honestly think this week and continuing, it's not going to go away. I think they're going to continue using him there, especially without – if Pascal came, I think it makes it more clear, like, okay, we don't need to do this. But I think that's the challenge because as soon as you put Aleem McNeil on the inside, you're automatically taking off either DJ Reader, Roy Lopez, or Tyleek. 2 of those 3 are coming off the field. 2 of those 3 do not see the field. So you can rotate them, but you're losing those guys. And Aleem, you're not – honestly, you don't really want to take Aleem ever off the field, right? Regardless of where he's at, you really never want to take the guy off the field. So I think from that perspective, it makes sense. However, I think there are advantages to both sides. And single blocks, Aleem actually plays single blocks pretty well on the defensive end, but I think Green Bay kind of went at him a bit. And I would challenge DeMarcus Davenports and maybe get back to Tyler Lacey a little bit to what you're saying. I would have the mix still going on, but I would at least flip the odds or the percentages to we're going to get you more on the interior. And maybe this game's unique. Maybe they leave him more on the edge just because of, hey man, we want to attack these tackles a little bit more. And we think that's our best matchup. Fair enough. But for me, I would definitely look at getting him more on the inside here because I just think in general he gives you more pass rush upside when he's there. I know he did just come back. It's awful, man. It's awful, dude. I don't know. Um, put Aleem McNeil at edge. Well, I think the concern of that is going to be movement speed because that's already a concern with Aleem here, unless he's attacking upfield. Is that quickness becomes a problem really fast for guys playing out of position like that? Because immediately, like a double team block or anything that's wide, they fall behind gaps, and as soon as you fall behind a gap, then all of a sudden you're in a spot where you lose leverage. Now you're chasing back into play and you're getting moved off your spot. That's a concern, I think, of putting a big guy out there. It makes some sense if it's an inside zone and you can just deal with a guy trying to hinge block and you can punch him in the chest. Okay, you're going to be fine, right? Or if he's on the backside, you might not have the speed to actually maintain your gap and you might fall behind that way. But if it's coming to the play side and it's wide, things like that, like you're going to be concerned because he may not have the movement speed to actually sustain where he's supposed to be. And all that size starts to not matter because you just don't have any leverage, which I think is the issue that pops up when you put a big man out there. Aleem definitely has more juice, I think, than Tyleik Williams. And again, Aleem McNeil got upfield a few times at defensive end. He blew up some things at defensive end too. To his credit, like one tackle, but it was a 0-yard run that we ended up blitzing. I think it was Brian Branch, and he shot upfield, beat their left tackle to his spot. So he's got the juice in his bag to make it work. I just think that first step becomes even more elite when you put him in the inside. Now, the weird thing about that is that on the interior, things are going to be happening faster. Offensive linemen are going to set quicker, but they usually don't have the range. So that's why stunts work so well for Aleem, and he can typically get on your shoulder because they don't have the range from gap to gap to typically stay in front of him completely. So a lot of times he's going to get an edge. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's eventually going to get there. Who would I start on defense line? So I would start coming into that game. I would put Hutch at DN. I would put McNeil at D tackle. I'd start Reeder, and I put Davenport at the opposite side tackle. I would definitely look at getting Marcus some real valuable reps. I think Marcus has small. He's not big, but he's played the run well when he's been out there usually, and he is getting wins. I would get that rotation going, but I would start Davenport, and I would want to get Roy much more involved. I think Roy's got to be much more involved with DJ Reeder on in terms of like rolling him in and out. Maybe you get Tyleik in that spot a little bit because he is a nose tackle. Because the challenge you're going to run into is you take Aleem off for Tyleik, now you lose Aleem, and now you're back to the boat of okay, now Aleem has to go to defensive end, and that takes Davenport off the field. It's like okay, well, is there a massive advantage here? And if you feel like it is, that's fine. But if you feel like it can be a liability in some ways, then maybe you have to get Tyleik more so mixed in for a guy like DJ Reeder. So it's always going to be that challenge you're going to have to deal with. I mean, you could do some 5-man front things and just play 2 backers. I don't think we're going to see much of that, but you could. You can think about it. I mean, you'd be heavy up front, but you could think about it. Lopez, Tyleik, McNeil at Hutch. Yeah, you're just not going to get a lot of juice with that. That's the problem. I mean, you get some juice with Aleem because in that case, you just be putting Aleem at D end. I don't think you get as much of it at D end. You typically don't get much of an outside threat, but you can get and push guys backwards. Hutch he's still going to get chipped and those kind of things. But on the interior, you'd be fine. I mean, you just wouldn't get a lot of rush there. I don't think Tyleik is a great rusher. He's kind of average, a little bit above average sometimes. And Roy doesn't give you a ton there, but he continues to work. I think you just lose some of that, but you can make it work. It's kind of what they've been doing. Who do you think is covering CD and Pickens? So, I mean, for me, I would almost just follow around DJ Reed with CeeDee Lamb, and I would probably put a lot of Rock Ya-Sin on George Pickens, and I'd rotate Amik Robertson into that matchup because I think he's going to match the mentality that matchup's going to take, and then you're going to have to get some support there. But I would probably just let DJ Reed follow him around. To be honest, they might not do that. They'll probably play sides, but I would almost just let him like, hey, dude, wherever CD goes, just stay with him. That's your guy. Or honestly, do that with Branch again. Just let Branch follow around CeeDee Lamb. Because if you let him follow around CeeDee Lamb for the most part, whenever you go cover one, let him follow around CeeDee Lamb. You can just put DJ Reed on Pickens and say follow him around. That becomes an option. I know it's early, but do you think we get another DT in the draft? I feel like we need. Probably not. I mean, honestly, if I just had to guess based on, I don't want to say no because Roy's got 1 year. Roy's last year. DJ Reeder's on his last year, so they might. I think Roy's going to re-signed. That'd be my guess. I think he's going to be re-signed. We'll have Tyleik. You'll have Aleem. So yeah, probably. I don't think it'll be aggressive. If I had to guess right now, just based on what we have, maybe. I don't know if we'll draft one. We might sign one, but I don't think it's going to be a early investment necessarily. And I think there's guys that I like Christian Miller out of Georgia. I don't think there's going to be an immediate early address though. I don't think it's going to be glaring for them. And yeah, I don't think there's a ton that's glaring for them. I think that offensive line will just in general, flexibility inside or outside. That's going to be something that's going to be on their mind. I don't know if it'll happen at the top because typically picking at the back end of the first round, it's hard to get starters, but you can find them. It's hard to. Defense end's going to have the depth to consider it. It's going to have the depth to do it. I think it's going to be it should be in play. Those are the only ones that feel like, okay, that's very realistic based on what we have. Now, safety could come into conversation too. I mean, I wouldn't throw it. Shoot, if Caleb Down's sitting there, I'd draft him. But no, honestly, like safety at some point will probably get into conversation too, just because a lot of our depth was kind of turned over. I think Harper's playing well. He'll probably get brought back. But that'll be in the conversation just because depending on what this Kirby thing is long-term wise. Cornerback probably can't be thrown out either as a possibility because of injuries. I mean, you'd like to, but I don't know that it can with all of our injuries that we have. Wide receiver, maybe wide receiver. I don't know. Maybe. It depends on what Tesla probably does to finish up the year. Maybe. It's probably possible, but maybe not. They'll probably want to draft another quarterback. You know, you moved off Hooker. You got to get another quarterback back in there. Running back, I don't think so. But if you move off Monty, maybe. I don't think it'll be running back. But it's possible they move off Monty. I don't think they will because they did recently extend him. So I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know, man. I think they're pretty open again. I hope St. Brown's there for the game. I hope so too. I'm expecting now he's not going to play. That's my guess. So that's kind of that's the expectation I'm putting on it. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I feel like this is going to go. And that being said, all right, we're going to leave it there. I appreciate y'all joining. This was a late stream. Didn't want to go super long, but I wanted to get this in. Also, Bleacher Report, man. So every day I post a video over there. If you have the app, follow me on the app. I put it over the community where you can look up and you'll find me, my name. Go to the app, download the app. If you don't have it, follow me. Tomorrow, there will be another video I put out. I put up one every day, and I put up, of course, the post game, but every day of the week up to the game, Monday through Thursday. So check that out. Check me out on Bleacher Report if you haven't. Dose of Draft as well. Let me real quick give a spotlight to that. You can see it here at the bottom left. Dose of Draft. That's up and running. We dropped the video today. That's worth checking out if you want to just hear about draft stuff as we're working close. We're working close to mock draft season. What them Iowa boys got on the O-line. Iowa's got some dudes now. Today we actually did an O-lineman. We went Penn State's offensive guard. So if you want to see that one, I'm a big fan. He'd be a lot of fun to put in Detroit now. Definitely look at checking that one out. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one too. Yeah. So with that, I guess I'll leave it there, man. I appreciate you joining. Corner that can stay healthy. All right. I think we can beat Dallas. I think so too. Honestly, I think we can beat everybody though. I don't know. You think you can beat everybody until you don't, I guess. You know what I mean? Hey, shout out to Danny that just subscribed. I don't know why my phone told me that. Or not Danny. I'm sorry. I said Danny. Shout out to David Duncan. David Duncan just showed some love, man. He just subbed to Dose of Draft. All right. I appreciate you, man. That was weird. Why did it do that? I don't know. It happened. New to the channel. You're new to the channel. Who is that? Belinda Brown. Well, I appreciate you stopping in. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Belinda. You came at the wrong time. If you just joined, we are about to end this thing. So I feel terrible. You know what I mean? I feel terrible, but I appreciate you being here. Feel free to run it back. We're going to have very consistent live streams going forward. Why not put Whiteside in? I don't have an issue with playing Whiteside. I just think that, I mean, if Amit goes to the slot and you have Reed out wide, you can rotate Whiteside, but I would give Rocky Sin the first dibs because Rocky Sin didn't do anything not to earn it after this last game. I play Rocky Sin first. If you want to rotate in, that's fine, but I'd go Rocky Sin first. That's where I would start. You can rotate him, but I'd start Rocky Sin. If we play the way we played against Baltimore, we will win. There you go. There you go. Anyways, I appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon, probably tomorrow. Hopefully, I don't know how this Monday night game's going, but enjoy the rest of it if you're checking it out. And I'm going to end it here, man. I'm out. Have a great night. Got to get back on track this week, man. Cowboys week. We'll be on to previewing Cowboys really soon here, and we'll do it through our live streams too. So stay tuned, man, because we're on to Dallas officially. Really, this is the first day we're officially on to Dallas. One more thing. Dose Shep was changing things up about putting more pressure on the quarterback. How is he going to do that all of a sudden? Well, for me, I would put Aleem on the inside. I think that changes things up because it puts him right in his face. And he defended Hutch, and he kind of talked about how Aleem was very impactful. I mean, there's always different ways schematically to do it. Obviously, you can blitz more. It's pretty straightforward. I think their usage of Derek Barnes is pretty impactful. When they put Derek Barnes and they use Barnes on some stunts a couple of times, he got into the backfield. You could do that a little bit. Lions did some overloading 3-by-1 stuff to isolate one side and run games on the opposite side. They did a little bit of that. maybe you try that a bit more. I think the interior stunts are really effective for them because what they do have an advantage is Tyleek moves well, Lee moves well. Muhammad, when they put him in there, had been adding juice, but the Packers just ran directly at it. So we'll see if teams continue to do that. If not, you can keep doing that. But I'd keep running games on the inside. I would really look to continue running games between those defensive tackles and maybe just let the DNs do what they do. Let those guys play. Let the interior run some games, use their athleticism, and hopefully that allows you to still contain the pocket even by running games instead of getting your DNs in the mix. Just allow your interior guys to work. That's what I would think about. And again, getting Barnes involved in the rush scheme has been impactful, so I would definitely look at that too. All right, we getting out of here. I'll see y'all.